It's Vince Reddy here. And yeah, pretty much this is the anime that in some ways kind of created me almost. I mean, pretty much maybe me, maybe not, but I don't know how these ideas of for this channel would ever exist without Orin, High School Host Club. I saw the ending and I don't know if I was emotional or I was like, yeah, that was bound to happen because of course I seen it like years ago and I was not emotional at all. But I just finished watching Ouran High School Host Club, or at least the last episode, and everything just brought everything back to me. It's like a rejuvenation. That's kind of like the thing why I come back to nostalgic video games and animes and movies that I watched in the past. It's that feeling though, And this is one of them. This is one of those moments that got me, really, back to my grind of just like doing what I do. And it's inspired of basically the Ouran High School Host Club. For those that don't know, my content is romance focus. And of course, Ouran High School Host Club is romance involvement to the core. So it only made sense that I would actually talk about my love for it. And for those that are, especially many, those that are just discovering this anime, and also the discovering the fact that well this is the anime kind of inspired me in a ways and there's so many aspects that come into this channel that inspired me to do YouTube, or at least reading content involving romance. And this is kind of like one of them, especially during the time where shoujo ai was like big, like with Nana or Paradise Kiss, one of those from I Yuzuki, Ayamazama, I believe. And also like discovering Strawberry Panic and Code Geass and those very royal style animes. This is one of them that the reasons why that I love royalty style animes is because it kind of puts you in that world. And this is one of those animes that did put me in that world. Understanding the politics, especially towards the end of the anime, where we've seen business and how Koya does, different work or something like that, and the finances of stuff. How Honey and also his tall individual, his tall friend there are like part of like a real force. Like basically, this all the majority of many of these characters, except for Haruhi, is involved in some kind of privilege, and of course they're rich and stuff like that. But in a hierarchy where it's like they're just up there and you kind of just look at this view from down above from where they're standing. And that's one of the aspects that I love about this anime. It shows that world almost, and that's kind of like a popularity at that time, with Utena and also Kogias and also many animes. That just shows the beauty and royalty of what it is. And I noticed that you don't really see that anymore nowadays. I remember talking about Utena, how I love the romantic fantasy style of it. The same thing with this one, but in a comedic way, in its way where the comedy kind of bit points are in appropriate numbers of just the episodes of where they are supposed to be. And many of the storytelling behind the side characters and their problems surrounding love, and especially surrounding in high school, how they're like, just young and, just want to have fun. And that's mostly what I see through Ouran High School. This club that just wants to have fun, just wants to enjoy themselves. And I see that kind of, true, what they do in the animes with their dress ups and stuff like that. How Haruhi just comes in and, accidentally, trips a vase or something is something expensive and then has to work for them. Starts out with, those kind of typical plot points of like, oh, I ended up here. I talk about, many times the hero's journey or something, that kind of agenda of like, that I learned in literature of the hero's journey, where now Haruhi is in like a whole different world through that event, just going inside of the Ouran Host Club and understanding each character one by one of the reason why how they act the way or their motives in life. Reason why that Honey is cute even though he's like this short high schooler or something, and Koya being kind of conservative in a sense, through his like especially what he does for the club, and the twins, how they're like this twin sets. And I think the stereotypes behind this anime kind of shines through why is the reason why they are. And some of it is like a sense of escape, but also their past, their childhood, and where they are right now, and their expectations from their family, which is very hits home of just like, having family expectations to make you better and something like that. That falls in deep with many people nowadays, that are trying to be successful. But man, before the inflation, things were simpler. You just see this anime, it's almost like, yeah, it's typical for rich people to be this way. But now rich people are totally in a different world of their own. Not that I'm rich and not that I would know, but you kind of it's different nowadays, from I know royalty was never existent in today's, day and time, unless you're part of like, bright UK, or Japan, within its bigger cities, or some kind of like field. Because yes, this is a fictional story within a fictional school, that you may think to yourselves like, how is like something this royal, this prestige of a school look like this when it's not in Europe? It's in freaking Japan. But like, they literally have a freaking Big Ben in their school. Like, the architect is just crazy. Like, the architect for many of the schools are crazy. It brings me into that world of royalty, and just like the ridiculousness of just most of these, like, oh, prestige, and just fancy kind of like, foods and everything else. But it's all based in looks for your family, and for the expectations of, who you're trying to impress or something. I just like how this whole anime just goes into that and really oversaturizes it to actually point its own like commentary, in a sense, for what it's trying to tell, and especially seeing through Haruhi's eyes, where she's like, this is these damn rich people, you know what I mean? It sort of brings that comedic that I love about it. It's one of the funniest animes that I have ever seen, mostly when it was released. And I'll never forget the many episodes that I watched. I remember, like, very fondly of just having it in my old house back in Jersey. And I pretty much, it was I was living in the Philippines, and then I moved to Jersey. And then I saw this anime just from the glimpse of my YouTube channel. I mean, not YouTube channel, but from YouTube, before it was YouTube or something, a long time ago. And it was like, I was on a desktop, and pretty much it was excuse me, it was bright outside, and I was just watching this masterpiece just playing out, and it was only the second episode where I was like, oh my goodness, wow. Because the flirtations of this anime is what drawn me. There's a part of me like really wants to share you my ideas of where I get my sense of romance and fantasies is through this anime, because of how funny it is, and how, it's not afraid to be itself when it wants to be. It's also its a sense of, I guess for me, my what is it, my grounds. Okay, I'm trying to think, my stomping grounds for really getting into romantic settings, like Ouran High School Host Club, especially in a time where I was very ashamed of, being into that. I would literally just pull out Dragon Ball Z just to pretend. Oh, oh, snap, Dragon Ball Z. Oh, yeah, that's manly. Oh, I'm gonna watch this. As a person's freaking looking at me when in the Barnes and Nobles, and this was like when I was in high school, middle school, and then I would just look at these books of me reading Dragon Ball Z, despite, no offense to Dragon Ball Z fans. What really got me into something that I love is, Paradise Kiss, is, Ouran High School, of course, Code Geass, and what else? Just those romantic titles, or just something, that kind of setting that I just love to watch. Strawberry Panic, and uh, you know, man, there's so many animes that I can't really name at the moment. I know them, but like Sailor Moon and Utena, like those are the ones I was into when I was a kid. At the time, I was ashamed of that, and it's because that this anime, because I grew up in a rough neighborhood and stuff like that, it brought me into that world where I get to escape, because the ideas of going to the school. I go to a I went to a crappy school, you know, in the ghetto, in the slums in the Philippines, in the just I just never been into I would say a good school or even a clean school. I would say I think the cleanest one was like when I graduated. Here in California, pretty much. That's it. But other than that, all the schools I went to was crap. And I look at Ouran High School. I look at, you know, Kogiya's, their school, Utana school, these anime that showcases these different schools, even Soul Eater. And I was like, damn, I wish I was studying there, you know what I mean? And it's because like for something like this, every time I watch it, every time I come back to it, even though I know every single scene by minute or something, like, oh, yeah, in the ending, they're gonna do that Oran Fair or something. Ranga comes up here, the love between France and Japan, which I heard in a geography class that Japan and France are like very fondly of each other. They're in love, like, France just loves Japan, Japan loves France in terms of politics, I believe. But, it's even though that I keep seeing that USA loves Japan more, you see the politics dynamics from real life actually play into this anime. And it's so easy just to see from reality to this anime play with each other of just like how it presents itself where it's entertaining. Especially understanding the family, the mother of Haruhi, even in the beginning when we already know that her mom passed away, and also seeing the end of Tamaki's mom. And you see just everyone else, not really many more that, especially the twins and I guess the rest, Koya's dad just mentioned there, but you see many just doesn't really mention their family at all. But it also mentions themselves as a person, as a kid, because, teens, no matter how old you look, if you're like below 19, you're still a kid. And I learned that for sure that, like age 20, I had to be an adult real quick. That's another story for another time. But these were kids that just want to be like kids. That episode with the redhead, like literally red hair, not like redhead, like, the twins, but like literal red hair, being part of a Yakuza or Mafia family or something like that. As he had to have the expectations because of his face, but he was still a kid. He was still young. And Renga was still a kid because she had these fantasies. And it kind of hit home for me because I always look at people that are so attractive and I would be like, oh man, I bet they're like this and that, when that's not true, especially how Koya lays it down for Renga. That's not how it is. It really showcased that sense of reality for this particular anime and what it's trying to give. And there's so many points where it's like you can't really think in the world where it's, all lovey and dovey and everything when so much things are real. How, the host club discovered the whole sense of commerce coffee or something, which was funny. And how many of, students, like in the beginning, don't trust Haruhi because she's a commoner, or like, oh, who's she? The jealousy surrounding this, the dynamics for many, especially the side characters. Ouran High School was such a complete package. And you kind of see that play in with many other animes and especially webtoons that I've been reading that really reminds me of Ouran High School in a sense. The Host Club, I've seen a bunch of stuff from Host, with the concept of Host Club, especially a Japanese drama back then, that really touches that kind of subject. Documentaries, and for a high school host club, would it be like, it was surprising now thinking about it as an adult. It's just like, okay, that's just not appropriate. I can imagine any high school here in America having a host club, if you know what I mean. Like, that just wouldn't be right. They would report it to the news immediately. But it's for this one almost fits in a well. I mean, not well. This almost fits in a way where it's like a club that you're in a part of, but also a workplace or anything like that, that you immediately build family. Like Tamaki's sense of like being a quote unquote father for Haruhi is showcasing like, Tamaki is basically in love with Haruhi, but decides to shield it of it being like, a father, which is kind of weird in a sense, but it makes sense why he seems to act that way. And especially how many of them grow within Haruhi, as Haruhi is surrounded, even though it's like supposed to be counted as a harem, it was more than that. I think it's not really harem to me as I was watching it the whole way through. Maybe in paper, but the whole time I was like, these are friends. This is like literally family. Family that you might not see later on, but family that you will always remember. From what I read, from what I've been doing in this channel, is all stem from Ouran High School in a sense. All stem from those kind of animes that I don't see nowadays. And I don't know, it's just feel like when every time it ends, I just miss it more, you know? I'm just like, where's that second season? There was already one for Soul Eater, Bleach, and what about Ouran High School? Season 2. Like what, like now thinking about it from where they were in high school, they have to be at like, Haruhi is probably 30. Tamaki is probably 31. I'm just thinking about like, these ideas for it where they're like, man, they aged. They they aged. And all of us don't, get older at some point, pretty much everyone else, every point, but you know what I mean? It's an anime that just never gets old. It's a classic. That's all I can say. If you're seeing this, probably like, and I know a classic stems like, supposed to be like, for, at least from my parents saying like, oh, it has to be 100 years before it's a classic. No, it's a classic. In my heart, it's a true piano piece, because how Tamaki plays piano and how that brings such a certain art, especially the painting from Koya, how it stretches to a bigger flower. This is a classic. This is a masterpiece because to me, I can never see something anything like this. How original it is, how beautiful it is, and how really it's just like no other. I don't know. I'm pretty much. Of course, this is supposed to be a love letter for Ouran High School host club. In a sense, it's basically just me, looking back of like how this anime shaped me as a person. I could have been anyone, else. I could have been terrible or a rougher individual, a ruffian. However, this anime almost like, it almost tells me to behave and be polite, Vince. You know, but at the same time, it inspires me. It's inspired deep into me because I'm a romantic. I forget what the term is. Okay, I don't know. I'm a romantic is something like that. Okay, some term with the romantic, and that's what I am. And I see this for the beauty, the laughter, and everything about it. It just it brings those good vibes. Even though I was never in that kind of world. But I'm stretching into the point. I'm not really out here saying like I think I'm part of the anime. I'm think or in high school. I think it's a part of me. Listen, it is a part of me, but not in a crazy sense. It's just something that I guess really this channel for what I do because of my how YouTube became my job. That would not happen if it wasn't for Ouran High School. There's many aspects again, but Ouran did it. Ouran was the one that did it. And Brothers Conflict in a sense. But Ouran High School. Other than that, you guys watching, yeah, if you haven't seen it, I'm telling you right now, it is worth every minute of it. One love. Peace.